Welcome to Almost Pro Bites, where we take a quick bite at the biggest conversations in sport. Today's one is a question I think almost every athlete has asked at some point. How do I know if I'm actually in the right environment for my growth? Because sometimes it's not even about how hard you're working, it's about where you're doing the work. And that can be really, really hard to figure out.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where you don't always realize it straight away. Like you can be in an environment for a while, years before you even question it. And then sometimes it's too late by the time that you do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of athletes default to seeking the answer out internally. Some classic examples are I just need to work harder or I need to do more. When sometimes the better question should be, is this environment actually helping me grow? So how do you even start to figure that out?
Yeah. And isn't that a golden question? The If we haven't dropped enough already in the first 60 seconds of question in this little AP bite, how do we solve what is probably a question people are reflecting on immediately going, wait, am I growing here? So I reckon the first thing you're looking at is, are you actually developing or are you just a participant? Are you just participating? And is this environment the best pick of any of the options, albeit limited, that are available to me? And do I even know what the other options are? Are you learning, being challenged, getting feedback, good, bad, or indifferent? Or are you just showing up, doing the same stuff, staying in the same place?
Yeah, the tricky spot is that you can be busy. You can feel busy and you can be busy in your training, but you might not actually be improving.
Yeah. And the reality is, we sometimes miss the indicators, right? So
Yeah.
this indicator of pausing and going, wait, even if I'm doing the same things, am I growing from doing them? Maybe, but also maybe not. And this is where we start to get pretty honest with ourselves in the athletic space. It doesn't necessarily always look like comfort in training for growth, but it should feel like you're progressing.
Absolutely. And I think as well it should also feel like, does someone actually see you? Is
Mm,
someone valuing you and do they see you? Are they being honest with you? Is there a coach? Is there a mentor? Someone in the environment who understands where you're at and is willing to tell you the truth.
mm, mm,
Not just like, "Good job." We hear "good job" all the time. The amount of times I go to junior training and all I hear is the coach saying, "Good job. Great
yep,
effort. Good
yep.
job." Like, that's not real feedback. That's not conducive to my progress
Mm,
as an athlete.
mm, mm.
But this is what we need to work on because without that, as the player developing, you're just left standing there thinking, "Well, where am I at?" You're just kinda guessing.
And you're not gonna grow from guessing. No one
Right.
grows from guessing. Well, you might, but gee, it's slower than someone just
Yeah.
telling you, "This is where you need to get the work done." I reckon another question we should be asking ourselves, if we're not sure whether this environment's fostering us as an athlete and growing us, is to ask, "Am I being stretched?" And importantly, the contrast, or am I shrinking? Are you, as an athlete, being pushed to step up, or being given opportunities to step up, or being trusted with some big moments in sport? Or do you feel like you're being held back or you're holding back because you're unsure or you're playing smaller? If that environment's not pushing, you're not pushing.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're growing into it or fading into the background? Like, the right environment you're right, the right environment should expand you, should
Yeah.
develop you, should help you grow, even if it's uncomfortable at times, and that goes back to, you know, are they providing you with truthful feedback?
Yeah.
Because that can be very uncomfortable,
Yep.
but beneficial.
Yeah, there's growth in the discomfort, right?
Right.
The other thing I think about is the culture that's around you in these environments. I
Mm.
reckon it's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge.
Yeah.
Because you can be in a good environment on paper, but if it doesn't
True.
align with what you value,
Mm,
how people treat each other, how success is defined, what's rewarded, it's gonna feel off.
mm, mm.
And is that then the right environment? You know?
Well, I reckon culture's the one that forces you to get really internal because
Yeah.
when culture doesn't fit, most good athletes will look to themselves first. Am I the problem here? And the second guessing starts internally. It's not what's around you. And the true question you need to ask is this just not quite the right fit for me?
I totally agree with that. The other side of this is depending on your location. We've spoken about those 7 pillars before a couple of times, but depending on your location, what opportunities do you actually have available to you to be able to find the right fit to fit culturally with your values and with your beliefs? And I think, even when we compare the US to Australia, while both big sporting nations, we know that there is a difference in the level of opportunities available, particularly to junior players, to seek out clubs that do fit them culturally. And it can be a real battle to try and find that.
Mhm, mhm.
The last point that I'd be asking myself regarding the environment is, can you actually see a path forward in the environment that you are in? Not a guarantee. No one can guarantee, okay, you're going to be number one in the world and the greatest player of all time, whatever the case may be. No one can
Mhm,
guarantee you
mm,
anything in sport,
mm.
but a sense of where are you going
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what you're working towards, what the next steps might look like. And I think that's really important, to find an environment that's going to foster your goals and help you to achieve your goals and be honest in the work that it's going to take to achieve those goals.
That they're giving you direction,
That's right.
so that you're not just working hard without direction. Because I think you and I both know that gets old fast.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Yeah.
That's detaching. That's where you go, "I don't even know where this is headed." Most people can't work without an outcome in mind, right?
And it's a cop out. You go to sport and you're paying these coaches, you're paying to be in this environment.
Yeah,
Good enough or not fostering your goals and your outcomes is a cop out from the club, from the organization. And
totally,
you're doing yourself a disservice by not seeking this out.
totally agree. Totally agree. I for the people that are listening, I would say recognizing that the environment isn't fit for you is one thing, and that's kind of what we've touched on to this point. But doing something about it is a whole other thing. And it doesn't always mean I listened to this Almost Pro Bites episode and I'm throwing it in, I'm out of here, I'm going somewhere else. It sometimes means asking better questions or pushing for the feedback that you know you need, finding support in addition to the environment that you're in. And then sometimes it does mean you've potentially outgrown where you are.
Yeah, it's a big call. That's a big call, that one. But the reality is the right environment won't do the work for you, like we've indicated, but it will make your work count and
Mm.
should support and value your progress. Now, that's all for today's episode of Almost Pro Bites. But if you're living this experience right now, trying to figure out if you're in the right environment, we'd love to hear about your experience. Reach out, drop us a comment, and we'll be in touch. Until then, see you next time.